A lot of people will get up and say, when we get to government, then, we will fix everything. And I say, Oga, sit down, sit down, sit down. Because when you get to government, you will change everything. You will fight corruption. Oga, the way you're talking, you already look like one of those that in 2 weeks, when I next see you, I will not recognize you again because you have immersed yourself in what you thought you were going to correct. So what I do is making people count the cost. You must count the cost. When you have counted the cost, I will make sure that you know that it is costly. If you've counted the cost and you say, I can still come out without anything that will be associated with wrongdoing, I know that I have helped you, not just in Nigeria, but everywhere actually around the world. And I have seen people who have come back to me, especially in countries even other than Nigeria, saying that that conversation helped prepare them for their thing. The power of the telephone on the continent, and this is economics again, it's been incredible. Through the telephone, through the internet services, the voice services, the data services, Africa's economic growth actually is finding more contributions through telecom and ICT than it is finding through the traditional sectors.
Absolutely.
So do you see that the 3 game changers that I have spoken about are well within our reach?
Fantastic.
We, not the ones who don't want the society to make progress, should be hopeless. Who did I say should be hopeless? The ones that don't want the society to make progress
should be hopeless.
That we permit to be hopeless. As for you and me, what should we be?
Hopeful.
So let no
many thanks indeed.
When you did not negotiate your values. So that's one. Number two is a lot of people will get up and say, when we get to government, then, we will fix everything. And I say, Oga, sit down, sit down, sit down. Because when you get to government, you will change everything. You will fight corruption. Oga, the way you're talking, you already look like one of those that in 2 weeks, when I next see you, I will not recognize you again because you have immersed yourself in what you thought you were going to correct. So what I do is making people count the cost. You must count the cost. When you have counted the cost, I will make sure that you know that it is costly. If you've counted the cost and you say, I can still come out without anything that will be associated with. And I especially want to acknowledge the Almighty Father who has brought me thus far to give me the legitimacy to say I'm a real elder. And I, to remember to have these fond memories of my parents, like this question that you've asked. And in their absence, my husband, Pastor Oby Ezekwes, my guy, Mokembo, yes. And all of you that have come out, and especially my children, Chinemelum Chinwoba, Chidera, and my daughter, Odinaka Chukumo. So the question that you have asked, it plays an incredible role to have the strong foundation that parenting gives to a child. Our dad said to us that there are three things that he owed us. He and my mom, because my mom was a quintessential entrepreneur, just so that she could support this incorruptible public servant of a husband. And so to get us through the kind of education that my dad wanted, it required both of them being a team. And so my dad would say to us that there are three things that they would give us. Values, they would give us knowledge through education, and that they would give us their name. And they said to us that these three things, not any landed asset, not any fat bank account would give us the head start and take us far in life. And we saw that. We saw constant barraging with values. I mean, I hardly say anything without saying, my dad said to me. Two things that, again, my dad always emphasized was that every individual has the power of choice. He just made sure we understood that. Because he said that the person who understands that the power to choose any direction or a value or a vice, as the case may be, is given to you. God is the one who could have made it impossible for the individual person to have the power to choose. And if God, the ultimate person, if we could call him that, did not take away that power of choice from us, my dad always said that if we understood it, we would take more responsibility for the things we select to do or not to do. And so that power of choice, he made sure he just ingrained that in us. Because what he did was, as soon as we would turn 18, my dad would no longer even scold you or hate you. You know what he would say to you? He would say, continue if it pays you. Oh, that used to so. It was like that. Ken me. Kenning me was better than being told, continue if it pays you. And one day he got to understanding that he was saying that to us so that we would understand the power we had to make choices. So you would have to choose. I know people who say that it is hard. It is hard in Nigeria to stay on a particular straight arrow because everybody, the system, they all kinds of things. No. Ultimately, it's either you choose to be corrupt or you choose not to be corrupt. Simple. And then the second thing was the power of voice. My dad always said to us, don't you ever swallow your voice when your voice is necessary to be heard. And he taught us that power of voice by making sure that our home was a debating theater. And he could lose, and we would all laugh at him for losing. I mean it. And then, if you won, then you're the one who got daddy's extra meat in his meal. So in many ways, it was a home where we had a father figure and a mom, a supportive mom. For example, what my mom was, especially when I was growing up, was the restraining factor. Because he would say to my dad, if I left you and this girl alone, you would spoil her completely. And she would not realize that she's going to get married and she's going to have to carry children. So the two of them were quite a pair in raising us. And
so
that
important.
Made a lot of it.
And are you a pair?
One thing that you can relate to as a student is the importance of feeling that you have learned when a teacher has taught you, right? If a teacher teaches you and you don't think like you're learning, that can be frustrating. So the key number of things that were important for that to begin to happen were some of the things we had to do during my time. First, we had to design a system of quality assurance in education that would tell us whether children are indeed learning. Second, we had to improve the quality of teachers in education. At that time, we hadn't done anything about a country on improving the quality of teachers, which had been a problem because majority of the teachers in primary and secondary school were teachers certificate grade 2 holders. And some 20 years before I was minister, it was said that we needed to do away with that. We needed to upgrade the teachers' certification and their basic professionalism to be in the classroom, but it was not implemented. When I became minister, one of the key things we designed was an appreciation of the quality of teachers. So we moved to just take over 140-something thousand teachers across the country to move them to that minimum of NCE, that is National Certificate in Education, and then a BA or BSc in Education. So all the colleges of education, as well as the National Teachers Institute, were very important in a massive upgrade. We called it the Teacher Upgrade Program. That was important for making sure that children would actually learn. Because data, as now research shows, that when you have quality teachers in the classroom, there is a greater probability. More than 40% of what happens in learning is determined by the quality of the teacher, and then another more than 20 to 25% is determined by the teaching methods, not just quality, but just knowing how to teach. And so we started a professionalizing of teaching so that we could bring the kind of coaching that teachers needed in order to be effective teachers.
Absolutely.
And then so many things like bringing accountability to the education sector through the Community Accountability and Transparency Initiative. During my time, we then did the first comprehensive inspection of schools, secondary schools. We called it Operation Reach All Secondary Schools. We had a number of initiatives that also had to do with making sure that the use of data, because we are a continent that we don't use data in policy making. And the difference between those who make progress in development and those who don't is the lack of use of evidence, of data in policy making. During my time, we had to change that.
Absolutely.
And that's how come we have what we call the Nigeria Education Management Information System. So in summary, because I do hear this question, we're a society that likes to see people that built concrete, they built classroom, they built toilets, they built fences. What they don't know is that most of those things, when they prioritize those construction, it is for contract award. I had no time for that in education. I was interested in the things around policy, in the things around programs that would mean that our children are learning, including the kinds of skills and the knowledge that they needed to be competitive with the rest of the world.
Absolutely. Bixis, we need an entire symposium.
It is hard to hope when all you do see are patterns that sort of repeat themselves of a country that would be so really great. I mean, the world looks at us in wonderment.
We look at ourselves in
Yes, they look at us in wonderment. They say every time, and so many of you have experienced it, when people would say every time I meet a Nigerian, I feel like, oh my goodness, wow, such formidable people. But then, when I read about your country, it just is a complete paradox. What's going on with you people? So it can make you have a tendency not to hope. But I have to say to you that you must hope. And you must be hopeful. It's only a dead person that cannot turn around the situation. When I look at the young people of Nigeria and Africa, I see my number one game changers for the continent and the country. And by the way, this is not a pep talk. I'm talking economics, in the sense that it is very clear from the economic analysis that Africa's pathway out of the entrenched poor governance it has experienced so far will be the young people as number one factor. The second reason that I have plenty of hope, the women of Africa. The women, and I'm not trying to preach so that women will be happy. I'm talking again economics. Economic analysis has shown that for Africa, an optimization of the productivity and capabilities of the women will increase Africa's GDP by over 30 to 40%. Because at the moment, they are marginal. They are capped in informal activities that are low productivity. All you need to do is to ignite them with the right sets of policies, with the right sets of institutional and regulatory systems, with the appropriate investments in the things that matter for productivity and competitiveness, and everything changes. Absolutely. As far as the productivity of countries and the continent are concerned. And then finally, technology. My goodness, all of you, the younger ones, you were born after a minister in this country said to the poor that telephone services is not for the poor. It happened, did it not?
It did.
In this country. But what is the greatest asset of the poor in Africa today? It is the telephone.
Telecommunication.
It is not the car. It is not the motorcycle. It is actually the telephone. The power of the telephone on the continent, and this is economics again, it's been incredible. Through the telephone, through the internet services, the voice services, the data services, Africa's economic growth actually is finding more contributions through telecom and ICT than it is finding through the traditional sectors.
Absolutely.
So do you see that the three game changers that I have spoken about are well within our reach?
Fantastic.
We, not the ones who don't want the society to make progress, should be hopeless. Who did I say should be hopeless? The ones that don't want the society to make progress should be hopeless. That we permit to be hopeless. As for you and me, what should we be?
Hopeful.
So let no
many thanks indeed.
When you did not negotiate your values. So that's one. Number two is a lot of people will get up and say, when we get to government, then, we will fix everything. And I say, okay, sit down. Because when you get to government, you will change everything. You will fight corruption. The way you're talking, you already look like one of those that in 2 weeks, when I next see you, I will not recognize you again because you have immersed yourself in what you thought you were going to correct. So what I do is making people count the cost. You must count the cost. When you have counted the cost, I will make sure that you know that it is costly. If you've counted the cost and you say, I can still come out without anything that will be associated with wrongdoing, I know that I have helped you, not just in Nigeria, but everywhere actually around the world. And I have seen people who have come back to me, especially in countries even other than Nigeria, saying that that conversation helped prepare them for their thinking about public leadership differently. And finally, the matter of multiplying the leadership.
Absolutely.
Multiplying it. What we've done through the SPPG, the School of Politics, Policy and Governance, is essentially to multiply the kind of leadership that is about character, competence, and capacity.
Indeed.
And in all of you that have graduated from that school, in those that are in the school at the moment, in those that will yet come to the school, what we're saying is that you cannot but love to lead your country only through serving your country. It must be that you serve your country and that makes you a leader. Not that you lead your country and then you serve yourself. Because that's what we currently have.
True.
People say they're leading Nigeria.